Writing has been an integral part of traditional journalism, that is the print journalism, which we've embraced over the years. But a new reality emerged, which is online journalism. What brought about the emergence of online journalism? What is the uniqueness of online journalism? These are the questions that our guests will be providing answers to on today's episode of Writing Theatre. My name is IDERA ELUWANDE, and my co-host is...
My name is IMAGUDU, and you're welcome to Writing Theatre.
Our guest is here already on the show with us today, and we would like for him to introduce himself. He's going to be telling us his name and what he does. You're welcome, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Please
Thank you very much.
Tell us your name and what you do, sir.
My name is Olusegun Abisoye. I am the online editor for Dele Independent. I have been so for the past 6 years. Part of my responsibility on a daily basis is to administer and manage content on the Dele Independent website. And as you know, it's one of the most prominent websites, news platforms in Nigeria. And because it's attached to a newspaper, I have the dual responsibility of not only managing what comes in from the news print arm of the media organization, also to monitor news as they go in and then upload them on the website.
All right, sir, you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's such an honor to have you here today,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
So my first question for you is, what makes writing for online journalism, what makes it unique?
Okay, writing for online journalism as a online journalist, it's unique in the sense of being something that requires immediacy. It requires that you hit the ground running. It requires that your facts, your figures are confirmed, your grammar is correct in the immediate. You do not have the luxury of time and the litany of editors to go through your stories. You have to be good on your own. You have to be very good to gather the information and then check them to be true and then post them online. Speed and accuracy are the two watchwords you need to watch out for as an online journalist. You have to be quick in gathering the information, writing it, and you have to be accurate even in doing so. Those two factors, rarely do you, most times, you find out that one of them is missing. But your job as an online journalist is to ensure that as much as possible, that you're able to marry those two in every story you're putting out.
Thank you, sir. Another question that bothers my mind is that, that's fine. There's traditional journalism, that's the print journalism, and there's online journalism.
Okay.
So what are the unique challenges that online journalism faces compared to the traditional journalism?
Okay, if you go by the definition I gave earlier, the explanation is that the speed, the accuracy of your stories makes it unique for online journalists. It's also where the challenges, the most challenges you will be faced with come from. For example, as you gather your stories, you're seated at your desk, at your laptop and all with your device, and you're supposed to be providing content for a news platform. The challenge comes in, number one, you do not have the luxury of the litany of time or the litany of editors who will look through your stories, correct them, dot the I's for you. You become your own journalist most times. Okay, and you have to get it right. You are required to get it right. That's where the challenge comes from. Can you get the speed right, and can you get the accuracy of grammar right? So sometimes one of the fundamental issues about journalism is that you rarely accurately check yourself or self-edit accurately. You can do it, and your job is to improve in that area, the ability to self-edit, okay, write and then edit what you have written, and then also manage that space of time as the news breaks and you push it out. So that presents a challenge for you. Fact checking also is a very, very big challenge. A story can trend online, and at the end of the day, after we have all broken the news from one platform to the other, we discover that it was a lie.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah,
is a
different
big
time.
challenge. And there are times when the story you have now written requires that you reach out to the people you have written about and apologize. Because you know that your speed and accuracy of your job is part of the challenge. You must be humble enough, willing enough, open enough to accept the rebuke, both from internal system structure set up in your organization and the external people will call you out. And on social media, people will call you out. You must be willing to accept that rebuke. That it comes with the terrain. That we are going to be called out again and again, that this story that you put out about me or about this situation is not so. And when you are dealing with sometimes government functionaries who are opaque, who are not willing to divulge facts, or who have a preferred medium that they would rather deal with, the whole challenge is made even worse. In our system, sometimes you have government functionaries who would rather say, I want to work with this X, Y, and Z website, and that is all. So that means all the other myriads of news platforms, they are not important. So you as a news journalist have to decide, what do I want to do? In my position, I've had to shut down certain news that is breaking because I could not vouch for why we should post this story. It doesn't just flow with the, yes, we have made our mistakes. Let me be honest with you. In my seat, we have had to constantly reach out to people. Some have threatened lawsuits to tell us, you put this story out about me, if you do not retract, and a few days ago, I had to deal with one like that. So sometimes you are dealing with reporters, they have gone out, they have pushed the story to you, you have to push out. In my position, I am either at a junction where I have to decide, do I push this story out or do I shut it down? Sometimes some people have they tell you that, no, it's true, I confirm that. Sometimes I call the journalist who sent the story to me. Are you sure this is so? Are you sure this is so? Sometimes you rely on um, your colleagues who are on other platforms. Look, I've seen this story online. Are you people taking it? Because you have to have a network of people who are working together. So in other profession, like even in the medical profession, you say you get a second opinion. So I have a list of friends who I reach out to. Look at this story, and some of them tell me, Shegun, don't take this story. We are not taking it, sir. Our own platform is not taking it. And when I look at that advice, I flow with it. And I say, this story is not going anywhere because it will give us bad press. And that's so the challenge we have is the immediacy and the accuracy. Accuracy in terms of facts, figures, and then being the first to post the story. That is part of it. The algorithm.
You want to be the first.
Yes, you want to be the first to break the news. That is where we come from. See, if that push, that excitement is no longer there as an online journalist, just leave the thing, pack it up and go home. There must be that drive, but that drive must also be controlled by the need to fact check yourself all the time.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
You mentioned, when you were answering the question, you mentioned social media.
Yes.
So my question now is, what opportunities or challenges has social media created for online journalism?
Okay. Let's start with the opportunities. The opportunities that social media has provided for online journalists is that it bridges the gap between newsmakers and those of us who have the job of looking and searching for news. Bridges the gap. For example, let me begin to mention names now. I was trying to refrain from that. Let's say, look at the A-list artists in Nigeria: Davido, the Wizkid, Burna Boy, um, um, Kiss Daniel, Tiwa Savage, and the rest of them. Before now, you will need to reach out to their media people to know what they are saying. Right now, just social media has bridged the gap. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok has pushed out everything they want to do. They just push it out there. The online journalism that provides you an opportunity, bridges the gap between the two of you. You don't have to attend any press conference. You don't have to travel anywhere. So just as they push it out, your job is to pick it from there and make a story out of it. That is the simple side.
Okay.
The one that is not so simple is the one that A couple of days ago, we all heard how a popular blogger came out, gave very cryptic message about one musician turned politician, is fair in
Yes.
complexion, gave all the indicators,
Yes.
and the entire
We knew it was.
the entire knew who he was. We were all wrong. Everybody was wrong. Because in a matter of hours, somebody's name was already trending. That he must be referring to this
that
person. Until about 24 hours later, the wife came out and shut down the entire rumor. In fact, the thing went as far as they got the picture of the so-called lady and put it out there and said, this is the lady they are talking about.
True.
The person from whose desk or whose blog the news emanated mentioned nobody's name.
At all.
So we have that opportunity to bridge the gap as online journalists. But that is exactly also, it's like saying somebody's greatest strength is also their greatest weakness.
Yes.
That opportunity is also the greatest because we can goof. As much as we want to quickly put two and two together and the name is trending, everybody rush to it, we put out the story, and before you know it. So what opportunity that does for us is we can bridge the gap. While the print is waiting, they gather the news, they take it to the sub-editors, sub-editors push at it, they change the headline, they approve it, and the story is going to come out the next day. The online journalists have already published, and it's already doing follow-up stories. You have published the story, breaking, musician caught cheating. The wife speaks. But the online journalists have gone from there. It's taking reaction from other musicians or A-list artists. What do you think about this? And that person is giving their views. It will take the next day or the next couple of hours for the print to push out that story, look for analysis and look for reactions, and then bring them and publish them. But for the online journalists, that is your opportunity. But that same opportunity is also your greatest weakness. It's a greatest challenge.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, we'll give you more questions and answers as well to it. So stay tuned. You're welcome back to Writing Theatre, and we have been asking so many questions about online journalism, giving us insights into the world of online journalism. So, sir, as an upcoming journalist or as a journalist, now you want to venture into the online journalism, what are the skill sets that you need to put into consideration?
Okay, very good question. In my job, I get to meet a lot of people who are training to be journalists. And I've had opportunity to interact with them. And one of the most basic skills I've had to repeat again and again and again, you must develop as an online journalist, is your ability to write and write well. We cannot overemphasize that because I've met quite a few in this business who struggle in that area. You cannot depend on somebody else to do your writing for you. It's even easier for people who are in the print because they will write and somebody else will help them touch it up and change the headline. And unlike in foreign media where, like, if you go to Reuters, for example, let me mention Reuters, every editor who works on your story gets to put his name at the bottom of your story, that they also edited, that this story was edited. And the story I'm talking about is not even more than maybe 150 words. And every, like 8 people, 6 people will edit that story. And I understand the import of that because many of them, when you're talking about special areas of specialty, many of them brought their specialty, years of experience into that story. And sometimes it's just one thing, one fact, one figure that they added to the story and their name will be at the bottom. Unlike in those places, it's not like that in Nigeria, unfortunately. So you as an online journalist must become your own editor. You must be good at the command of the language, English, whether it's English or now we're referring to maybe we have seen platforms like Premium Times going into publishing in Yoruba and publishing in Hausa and Igbo, BBC, Yoruba, Igbo, and all that. So you have to be good command. You have to have that good command of that language in which you are writing. So the good command of the language is there. It's important to also have the ability to self-edit to a large extent. Sometimes you have new online journalists coming on board, and you have somebody who looks at their story before it's published. There's a checker. There's a position of at least one person who checks it and says, okay, approve the story to go. Yeah, you can publish. But ultimately, you are going to get to the point where you will be required to write immediately and publish. So you have to develop that skill set, to the ability to write, gather your own information. You have your own network of newsmakers and people who can help you confirm, fact checkers or references we can call to say, look at this story, what is going on. For me, in my position, I have, because it's attached to a national newspaper, I have correspondents who have been experts and experienced in many areas. When the whole cashless policy of the CBN was going on earlier in the year, we relied very effectively on our senior editor, who is in charge of reporting from the CBN, the financial editor. He was the one that gave us facts. There was one story that was trending. Everybody saying CBN has reversed itself. I just picked the phone and called him. Oga, what are you saying? Because it's a senior colleague, and he said, oh, I have not heard anything like that from CBN. So I just told my people, we have drafted the story. We're about to go to publish it and push it out, just like other platforms are doing. And he said no. And in a few minutes, he sent me a counter memo from the CBN stating clearly that they had not issued any statement. So that's part of what you must have as a journalist.
The ability to keep contact.
Yes, you must have that contact. You must have that ability to write by yourself, edit to an extent, then fact check, and then be able to have a network of people who give you information that is reliable.
So moving away from the skill set of, okay, managing your contacts, writing and all of that, how do you then make that decision and say, oh, this story is what I'm going to publish, this story is what I'm going to use? You know, what factor would you put in place to making that decision?
Is important. Truth, professionalism, these are very, very important values that you must hold as a journalist. You cannot report based on what a blogger. I must say this here at this point, that in my line of work, I have had to list out a number of websites, news platforms like us, that we have blacklisted internally. I tell my colleagues in the office, people who report to me, you do not pick any story from this place. You do not reference them in any way. Why? Because over time, we have known them to be notorious for fake news.
Yeah.
They have done it again and again and gotten away with it. And that is where you must be very, very, you must value your facts over and above breaking the news. I know we all want to be the first to break the news and go to and then draw the traffic to your site. At the same time, you must also value ethics of this profession. You are not a blogger. You are an online journalist. You must put a clear line of demarcation between what you do and that of all other bloggers around. They can carry certain stories as rumors that impinge on the integrity of certain people. Look at the public figure we were talking about, a couple of days ago. That people may carry it, but we looked at that story and said, no, this should not go. We don't have the facts. We didn't mention any name. We can play around with it that this is what is trending online, and that's as far we go. That is how far we go. It must be clearly stated in your story that this is just about what is trending. Many people will call us out on social media as news platform. If you know it's not true, why are you? No, the online journalist deals with what is also concerned is the preoccupation of what is trending. Okay, either you go through Google Trend or you go through Twitter, you have things that are trending per time, and you use that as your watchword. But underneath trying to drag traffic to your news platform, you must also have a certain level of value. You cannot report person A said this about this person, and then you run to publish that, and you have impinged on the character of that person. One, don't forget that in Nigeria, public office holders usually are the ones who carry the can many times. The things that are true, the things that aren't true, everybody pushes it on them. And it's not every one of them that is willing to go to take up a lawsuit and say, I'm going to sue you for this thing that you remember the immediate past vice president had to threaten lawsuits a couple of times when certain stories were coming on about him. Former vice president Yemi Osinbajo had to threaten lawsuits against certain news platforms that if you do not retract, we will sue. And reason prevailed. So as a online news journalist, you have to be willing to embrace certain values. Those values require that you don't have to break every news.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Considering your ethical standards.
Yes, your ethics require that the truth is more important for you. When the term Fulani herdsmen became popular in Nigeria, we were under a barrage of news, and it was coming from every part of the country. Every crime was attributed to a Fulani herdsman, whether it was them or not. And we had to take a decision internally. I have fought battles with colleagues over this, that I know this area, and I know the people operating in this area. These are not Fulani herdsmen. Please check your facts again. Sometimes we are not going to publish. Somebody else will have to publish this story, but it's not going to be me, not under my watch. And we have to refer it to higher ups within our own structure.
So, sir, in the process of trying to break a news, trying to be the first to quickly put out the news out there and all that. So how do you put your objectives as a journalist, your ethical standards of fairness, accuracy, and then how would you also, what are the process to fact check what you're about to put out there?
Very good. The good thing about fact checking is it is only people who are impatient and who are unwilling to subscribe to the ethics of the profession of journalism who will not go through that process. First off, there is a network that you have to build around you, whether within your own internal organization, one. Two, you can do it for people within the industry, not within your organization, who help you fact check issues. Sometimes they're in government, at other times they are not in government. Three, there are researchers. There are people you befriend who are, their job is, they are into research, they are into fact checking. There are organizations set up this day. There are also news platforms, there are links. There are links and websites that help you fact check. When you see a picture pushed out, you can actually copy that picture. That's a process. Push it to that website, and the website will tell you when this picture was first used. Do you know that the most popular picture that we all use on news platforms to depict Fulani herdsmen carrying gun, they are not Nigerian? All the pictures, as in go through each one of them, each one of those pictures, none was taken in Nigeria. Of an herdsman, yes, of an herdsman carrying a rifle, AK-47. That was the depiction then. Now, a set of, a head of cows, and then you have a Fulani herdsman with an AK-47. None of those pictures, when I did my own research, none of those pictures even emanated from Nigeria.
Wow.
They were from other West African countries, other African countries. But yet they are used to depict. Someone threw a challenge one time on Twitter and said, find me a picture originally from Nigeria where an herdsman was found with an AK-47. Nobody could find it. That was when we began to fact. Some people actually pushed out some of these pictures, and then that's when we began to fact check them. So
examples of websites that we can use to fact check.
Fact check NG.
Okay.
Direct, like that.
Oh, nice.
Then there's
fact check
NG. Yes. Then there is political.org, something like that. If you Google it, you will find it. There is also organizations that actually have a fact check arm. Okay, they have handles on Twitter too. There are Twitter handles that do your fact check for you. Yeah. I've had opportunity to ask a particular um, Twitter handle, please fact check it for me. And they came out with the result. It's not true. So sometimes what is trending may not necessarily be the truth. So your patience as an online journalist, you must have somewhere within you that the truth is more important than the traffic.
The traffic they are trying to
Yes, your job as an online journalist is what? Write a story that will generate traffic. The organization gives you that mandate. All right. And so you go out there, go scoring through the internet, trying to find the story that trend, go to Google Trend, go to Twitter trends, and you try to pick them up. As you do that, certain principles and values must guide your charge, your search. And that is one, fairness, ethics, and the ability to fact check yourself. You don't have to be fact checked by external organization all the time. You can fact check yourself, stop in your track and say, this story, I know we have written it, we have done so far, but just one thing out of this story makes it untrue. When it is too good to be true, usually, as we say in Nigeria, it's possibly not true. An MDA, ministries, departments, and organizations, and agencies of government, you know. And when I mention, make this reference, probably we'll be able to refer to it. At the dying days of the last few days of the last administration, one of the ministries wanted to push out something that I felt laudable, the quote, Nigeria Air saga. People accused him during that saga of putting together an amount so humongous that even his own ministry has never seen that kind. So talk less of, you understand? But we all pushed it around the story. Sometimes some of these things we need to understand as young journalists that there are people, there are hatchet jobs. That's the reality of this profession. I'm sorry to say it, but it is the truth. As a young journalist, realize that sometimes certain stories are pushed out and paid for.
Yeah.
And they will try to bring you into that. Sometimes they try to bring you in. In my job, I have had people offer me humongous sums of money to say, help us take this story down. I do not have that authority or power to take the story down. If the reporter, here is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
If the reporter says, sir, I just spoke, the person I spoke to who gave me this interview, for example, before the new CS, Chief of Staff to the President, Honorable Femi Gbadagbiamila, was eventually announced as the Chief of Staff, one of our reporters sent that story and said, this. In a matter of hours, he said the Chief of Staff to Femi Gbadagbiamila said he should pull down that story. Under that circumstance, because it was too early to push out that story. So the Chief of Staff of Femi Gbadagbiamila asked that story to be pulled down because it was like jumping the gun. But after pulled the story down by the reporter himself who wrote it, so that's where the crux of the matter is. The person who wrote the story can ask that my contact has asked me to respectfully to pull it down. You must respect that, and we can pull down under that circumstance.
So to round up, I want to ask, what do you think that the future holds for online journalism and how it has evolved, the evolution of online journalism?
The evolution of the online journalists is both promising, but also carries risk. It's a risk and reward situation. As we go for, people are going to depend more on online journalists to do their job and do it properly. TikTok, for example, a research has shown that the younger generation now gets their news from TikTok. The latest research. A couple of years ago, it was another news platform. Right now, TikTok is the in thing. So as we go forward and we begin to develop in this, online journalists must realize that it's a risk and reward thing. The risk is out there. Remember that certain countries are now coming up with legislation in order to check out what you are putting out on social media. So we must be careful. As online journalists, the conventional journalism already gives us a platform on which to operate. As an online journalist, please adhere to those ethics of the profession, because they will guide you, because now you are like the reporter, you are like the researcher, you are the editor, and you are the publisher of the story. So as you do that, a whole lot of responsibility you keep on your shoulder, both to gather the news and to edit it and to fact check it and then to publish it. All that in conventional journalism has been spread out among a couple of people. Right now, all those roles are rolled into one for the online journalist. It requires a whole lot of responsibility placed on your shoulder, and you must handle it well.
Thank you so much, sir. So, lastly, I just remember the question I wanted to ask. You know, for upcoming journalists, right? They are trying to look for a way to be distinctive from a regular blogger. So, what are those things they need to put in place to make sure that, oh, I'm not just a blogger, I am, I want to stand out from a regular blogger to become a proper online journalist?
If you decide to be an online journalist and you want to be the type who does investigative journalism, do it properly. Investigative journalism requires a lot of bravery, requires a lot of tact, ability to get information where others don't have it. When you subscribe to that style of journalism as an online journalist, be sure to get your facts and figures correctly. So there are so many resources too that help your work. It's not like you are a lone ranger. No, on the internet, there are so many resources that you can subscribe to. That will help you.
Okay, so that means if you want to venture into online journalism, you should work like you are doing investigative journalism.
Exactly.
All right.
And you know the work that it requires for you to become a good investigative journalist.
Yes. All right. You have heard it all from Mr. Olusegun Abisoye. He is the online editor for Daily Independent. Thank you so much, guys, for staying tuned. Please do not forget to like our YouTube channel, follow, subscribe, comment, and be sure that we're going to come with more content for you guys to learn from and also shape your future. So to say, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for coming in.
Thank you very much.
I remain your host, Paul IMAGUDU, and my. Thank you so much.